First up, this is a great book called, let's check it out here, The Whale and His Captors, or The Whalesman Adventures and the Whale's Biography. Now, it's sort of a strange 19th century, fictional work. What makes it interesting, though, is that a lot of people consider it to be the book that Herman Melville either stole the idea for Moby Dick from, or, borrowed liberally and thought this was such a magnificent book, it needed to be retold in a better way. Your decision.
It must be fantastically expensive. How much is it?
It's not true, actually. It's just $100.
Amazing. What I've got here is I actually picked this up on eBay. Now it's regrettably a library binding of a very important chemical book by Frederick Accum called A Treatise on Adulterations of Food. It's the first book that looks into what people are putting in our food, sort of a precursor to the jungle, although not nearly as revolting. Characteristics of good water. He'd written a number of chemistry books before this for a few years. This is the first American edition of an English book that was published the same year in 1820. Adulteration of Wine, really important book. We're going to try and get it rebound, but in something a little nicer than the Portland Public Library binding here.
Magnetic strip.
Yeah, with the nice magnetic strip so you can't carry it out. Super important book, though.
Right here I got now a travel book for America, The Mineral Springs of North America, which might very well be the first book that could be a precursor for today's weekend spas everywhere, because this whole book details with lots of maps, lots of different information, how to find mineral springs in America and what to do and how to best sanitize your body once you get there.
Wrong. Come again.
Super important nudist book.
Huge. And this one, it's pricey, $250, but this is a very early, lots of maps, foldouts, and nice details inside here, so it's well worth the price.
This is actually nothing terribly exciting, although sort of a nice 3-volume Coleridge in leather with some nice gilding and what is that? Some sort of a funny harp. I bet you that has a name.
Aeolian harp.
We're going to go with Aeolian harp. It sounds very classical. It's 3 volumes, 1834, with a nice frontispiece of a fish and an anchor. Very Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner there. But what's pretty neat about it is it's got the armorial bookplate of the Anstruthers. It's actually Philip Anstruther, the namesake of a really important royalist who fought against Cromwell in Ireland in the 1640s. It might not have been Ireland. We'll say it was Ireland, just for the sake of argument.
Really great gilt detailing in there on the inside of that.
Indeed there is. What they call dentelles. Yeah, some dentelles on the inside where the leather wraps over. And you see it's a parissem ni parissem, which means... crap, I forgot what it meant.
Persist or perish. Or,
persist.
I don't perish because I persist.
I will not perish for persisting. Anyway, it's a nice play on words because it's the same word twice with the knee in the middle. And the guy with the halberd. Pretty cool. That was very professional, right? How we remembered what that meant?
Last book I got up today is another boring binding here, but it's a library binding, but it is a early French language edition of The Life of Merlin by Geoffrey of Monmouth, who was the creator of all of the Arthurian legend in the late 12th century in England.
And Monmouth in French, I believe, means my mouth.
Yes. And they got, they call him Geoffrey, I believe. That's his Latin name. He's got a lot of different names throughout.
Monmouth.
Yeah. Vita Merlini, or V de Merlin, or Life of Merlin.
He was Norman. He was Norman, eh?
Yeah, I don't know. He probably came over with the Norman invasion, because it was right after, about a century after the Norman invasion. But nevertheless, it's a really important, this is a 19th century copy of this, but it's a really important book because, it pretty much laid out all of the stuff that would be about Arthur for the next, 800-900 years. So
it was the first not in Welsh, eh?
It was first in Latin, so I don't know. We need to do a little more work on.
It was the first mention of Merlin after.
It
wasn't in Welsh.
Yeah, and he's the one who created basically Merlin's identity and a lot of the other Arthurian stuff that was completely fabricated, but became standard bearer for all those works, the Morte d'Arthur and Mallory and all that.
What I've got here is it's a dictionary of the Holy Bible, published in Pittsburgh in 1807. In and of itself, not a super great book, although sort of a nice early American thing. But it was on Zadok Cramer's press, who was a really important printer in Pittsburgh, really responsible for bringing a lot of books and printing, and he ran a bookstore as well over there. And it's often called, because booksellers will stop at nothing to sell books, the first illustrated books printed west of the Alleghenies. Which is nice. We were looking at it before, and it actually says that you're not allowed to eat bats. It's actually in Leviticus. Yeah, no, we checked it out. It's actually in Leviticus. Don't eat bats.
Fair.
Too long, a little banged up, but really not a bad period binding, as I put this one here upside down. 1807 Pittsburgh imprint. Pretty sweet. And we're going to finish up because we had so much with My Pretty Pony.
Nice, bright. Really stands out with your other antiquarian books.
Well, and here's the pony right here on the board. This is, believe it or not, Stephen King. It's a short story that was in, I think, Nightmares and Dreamscapes that did this ridiculous edition.
Yeah,
which
the Whitney Museum helped publish it.
Yeah, which is really sort of like charming and horrible simultaneously.
Yeah,
pretty great.
Incredibly important for the Stephen King completist.
Yeah, you need that book. All right.